Today we are going to discuss on the topic History of Anthropology, Part 1, entitled Emergence of Anthropology. Anthropology as an independent discipline is a recent intellectual adventure. It would be wrong to say that the first anthropologists started from scratch. There were traditions emanating from various sources which the pioneers encountered, and it was not always easy to reconcile these traditions. The so-called primitive societies had been studied in the 18th century by political philosophers. They were in search of evidence for the theoretically postulated state of nature prior to the emergence of the state as a political agency. The aim of these political philosophers was an academic one. Yet they were not only people who studied primitive societies. Travelers and explorers also reported on the life of exotic peoples. They did so out of curiosity. The impulse which motivated the writing of fanciful accounts of primitive peoples was a personal one. It had little to do with scientific research as such. Now let me discuss the appearance of anthropology as a discipline, that is, the emergence of anthropology. The emergence of anthropology as a distinct discipline took place in 19th century. Sidney Slotkin, in his book Readings in Early Anthropology, traced the history of many anthropological subdisciplines from 17th and 18th centuries. In his opinion, most of the fields of anthropology was developed by the end of 18th century. But he also agreed that the real professional interest of the subject did not appear until 19th century. In fact, the intellectual heritage of the Greeks and the Romans was mooted considerably by the Christian theology. Again, it was revived at a later date when voyages were undertaken to discover the new territories. The unusual peoples and their unknown way of life evoke interest of navigators and other explorers. As a result, in 1800, a society named as Observers of Man was founded in Paris by the Union of Naturalists and Medical Men. This society promoted the study of natural history by providing guidance to the travelers and explorers of far places. The society did not last long. In 1838, another society for the protection of aborigines was established in London. Eminent scholars joined the society, whose aim was political and social rather than scientific. Again, within a very short time, the need of a scientific society was realized. One of the influential members, Mr. Hawking, in 1839, inaugurated an ethnological society in Berlin. Milne Edwards, the eminent naturalist, took there an active part. In 1841, a similar society was formed in London. Later, the Third Ethnological Society was founded in New York in 1842. The establishment of ethnological societies can be taken as an important landmark in the emergence of anthropology. Anthropology is therefore considered as the product of scientific developments in Western world. Charles Darwin's Origin of Species, 1859, perhaps boosted the zeal of all scientists in different fields. His idea not only opened the new avenues for zoology, anatomy, physiology, paleontology, archaeology, and geology, but also accelerated the pace of socio-cultural studies. Being influenced by Darwin, a group of intellectuals, namely Spencer, Morgan Tyler reached to the conclusion that evolution did not operate only in case of physical aspects of mankind, but also in cultural life. Accordingly, the year 1859 may be taken as the date of birth of anthropology. R. Murray, 1912, termed anthropology as child of Darwin. In the same year, 1859, Paul Broca founded an anthropological society in Paris. Anthropology made a significant progress in America following Broca's light. In 1863, James Hunt established an anthropological society in London. Hunt declared anthropology as a whole science of man. In 1863, Thomas Huxley was elected the president of the Anthropological Society. He belonged to the Ethnological Society in London for a considerable span of time. From that time onwards, when the work of Ethnological Society and Anthropological Society merged together, nearly 30 years, from 1840 to 1870, a great debate continued with the two words ethnology and anthropology. But the progress of anthropology did not dwindle down for its ambiguity in the name. France, Germany, and England highly appreciated the subject. In fact, anthropology earned a great popularity over whole of Europe. International Congress of Anthropology and Prehistoric Archaeology were held in 1866, 1867, and 1868 in different parts of Europe. Anthropological Institute of Great Britain and Ireland was established in 1871, but in 1873 a new London Anthropological Society came into being. This new society published the journal Anthropologia, International Communication, Research and Publication were the main objectives of this society. Paul Broca, in his address, The Progress of Anthropology, 1869, had pointed out that anatomy along with biology formed the pivotal base of anthropology. He also believed that general anthropology had the potential to evolve with crown and glory in the scientific field sooner or later. After a few years, anthropology really acquired a synthetic character and honored both in Europe and America. In Europe, the different names are still in vogue. They are complementary to each other to cover the whole study of man. But in America and most of the Asia, the word anthropology itself is sufficient to connote the entire meaning. Anthropology in America was not merely an offshoot of European thought. It became an independent center for the development of anthropology in 19th century. The empirical fieldwork of European anthropologists for training and practice continued up to the 20th century. Thomas Jefferson, the third President of United States, is said to be the first anthropologist in America. He was the pioneer empirical researcher in archaeology. It is therefore clear that the scholars in America got special field opportunities. On the other hand, England exhibited a great development only in social theories. Spencer, Tyler, and Fraser were the renowned names, but they are known as the armchair anthropologists. However, in later period, we get the scholars like Durkheim, Mauss, and others who deliberately tried to avoid the armchair speculation. In the last half of 19th century, some anthropologists became interested in the study of racial stock along with the biological evolution of man. France contributed a good deal in prehistory and physical anthropology. Germany at first established a psychological and later a geographical tradition of cultural anthropology. All these were empirical studies. Thus, American anthropology got the influence of European anthropology. The concept of culture given by Sir Edward Burnett Tylor, 1832 to 1917, established anthropology as an academically recognized discipline in Europe. Tylor has been recognized as the father of modern anthropology. The anthropologists of America also believe this. Tylor was definitely one of the principal founders of anthropology who forwarded the idea of cultural evolution. Like Tylor, Lewis Henry Morgan, 1818 to 1881 of America, has also shown the growth of human culture with time. Both of them believe in the psychic unity of mankind. Increasing complexity of the Western world with its multiplying social problems as well as the concern for understanding them gradually led to the fashioning of social philosophies and gave birth to various social sciences. The discipline of sociology and anthropology appeared as twin sisters, particularly after Industrial Revolution and colonial expansion, respectively. After the First World War, outlook of anthropology changed greatly. 19th century anthropologists were totally unacquainted with the peoples with whom they were concerned. They used to depend on the data collected by other non-anthropologists like explorers, missionaries, administrators, etc. As the anthropologists put forward their propositions, sitting merely in their libraries, many speculations were involved there. They learned cheaply on comparison. Bronislaw Malinowski, 1884 to 1942, first broke that train. During the Second World War, the American anthropologists paid attention to the psychological problems and issues of the whole nation. National character studies became very popular in this period. Moreover, some interesting development took place in the arena of language and culture. At the end of the World War, anthropology got the French scholar Claude Lévi-Strauss. His role seems to be indispensable for the discipline of anthropology. By the end of the Second World War, the physical aspect of anthropology also took a new turn. It was no longer a study of limited to different kinds of measurements. The study of growth and development became prominent due to the rediscovery of genetics. The progress in the study of human genetics provided a firm basis of integration between physical anthropology and social anthropology. Anthropology's basic interest in prehistory is more or less akin to primitive ethnography. But the New World prehistorians did not proceed in the same way as like the prehistorians of the Old World. Changes became evident in the field of linguistic anthropology. We can, however, conclude that at the formative phase, anthropology was linked with the exploration of life and culture of colonial countries. Anthropology's task was to interpret the materials collected by the non-anthropologists. British scholars not only gave a conceptual lead to this field, they first organized the International Congress of Anthropological and Ethnological Science in 1934, where 900 anthropologists, ethnologists, and other scientists of allied field from 43 countries had participated. It was further strengthened by British social anthropology. The impact of British anthropology was dominant in the next three congresses at Copenhagen 1938, Brussels 1948, and Vienna 1952. The Fifth International Congress of Anthropological and Ethnological Sciences, held in Philadelphia, USA in 1956, showed the post-war dominance of American anthropology. It was a remarkable anthropological conference held under the chairmanship of Alfred Grover in 1952. It was also significant because Soviet delegates for the first time attended this International Congress of Anthropological and Ethnological Sciences. American model of anthropology was followed in this congress instead of British model. After discussing all aspects of history of anthropology, now we can draw the conclusion. Thus, a large number of associates of the current anthropology under guidance of Professor Soltag were able to link the whole world with anthropology. The Soviet ethnography was found to be developed on the line of evolutionary theory, and later that became modified by the writings of Marx, Engels, and Lenin. Thus, new dimensions were added to anthropology. The concept of colonial anthropology or neo-imperialism in anthropology is comparatively a recent achievement. The scholars of the third world countries were neglected for a long time. Now they are also getting more importance. But in spite of all these recent developments, we must not forget the beginning of anthropology that was blessed with the European and American courage.